Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss the evolution of printing press or the history of printing press. Okay, so we will be discussing the important milestone in the history of printing press. We take for granted newspapers, magazines, books, posters, and other printed material. None of the printed item we enjoy today would be around without a number of persons in the history. So that is very, for us, newspaper is just a newspaper, magazine is just a magazine. We take it for granted because we get it every day, and we don't actually think about the people behind this invention. Okay. Okay, so it is like we know that, okay, none of this, I mean, you don't know, like none of these printed items we enjoy today would be around without a number of persons in the history. So we'll just talk about those persons. Okay, printing was developed based on early principles of printing, and it has undergone many modifications over the years to meet the needs of people in different eras. So if you check from the beginning, you can see they always, the printing evolved in all these eras. Okay, so it's like it they customize the printing thing based on the needs of the people in that era. And the first one is wood block printing, was a technique which was used in the Mesopotamian civilization before 3000 BC. So you can see two photographs here. Okay, so that was a technique like long back. Okay, and next is again wood block printing. It was discovered by ancient Chinese in 13th century. The process consists of carving a wooden block and then applying ink into it. Later on the block would be stamped on the surface and the letter or the word would be produced. You can see wood block printing, mold, and and a paper there. So paper in the sense, like, it's like, so there is a surface and a surface and a block, and you just stamp it on the surface. An invention of paper in the 2nd century AD by China was the first major milestone in the history of printing press. Actually, invention of this particular thing called paper actually led to something called printing. Okay, and as early as the year 1040, the Chinese had made movable type out of clay and earthenware. The innovation for variety of reason did not catch the attention of the world. So if you just check the history, you can see that, okay, so Chinese developed something called a movable type at that time, but it didn't catch the attention of the world. But Johannes Gutenberg, the prime name associated with the history of printing press and the inventor of printing press in 1450. So we always, like, when you hear about a printing press, we always remember this guy's name. Okay, so he is pretty famous person. Okay, and he created individual pieces of type which involve creating a master copy of each letter, devising the molds in which multiple versions can be cast, and developing a suitable alloy, that is a metal, in which to cast them. So it's like it's called a movable type of printing press. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a video, and it is actually from museum. Okay, and this museum demonstration describes a few of the panoply of practical triumphs involved in the press, including the ink ball, the tympan, and the frisket fastening system, and the repurposed wine screw designed to drive the ink home. What is perhaps most striking about the video is to see the many different aspects that required talent and skill to perfect in everything from ink setting to bringing the Clayton down. So watch the video.
He just took a bowl, put a handle on it, stuffed it with horsehair, covered it with, guess what, Genza flies, goose skin. So he finally made use of his thing. I don't know why he used goose skin, but it must have worked really well, because Bibles that are still in existence are just beautiful. So this is the way you would roll the ink onto the ink ball. By turning, rocking, and rolling it onto the ink ball. Well, yes, we know that Gutenberg was the first rock and roller. Now I used 2 ink balls because that would speed up the process of inking. So he has to rub the ink balls together so that they're both exactly the same. You've got to get the ink perfectly smooth over the whole surface of the ink ball, the same thickness, and evenly distributed. So rolling up the balls would take a little practice and a little skill, and also a little time to get it just right. What do you think? Is that pretty smooth?
Very nice.
These are Gutenberg lollipops. How about a lick? Nobody likes licorice.
Well, ever since that first.
Okay. Now we have to come straight down with the ink balls to get the ink just on the tops of those letters. If we went like that, it'd smear off onto the edges, wouldn't fill the letters in. So coming straight down, we begin to apply the ink on the tops of those letters. The person who did this became known as the beater. And of course, it took a little practice and skill to do this, because we have to get a little ink on every letter, and we can't get too much on the letter because that would just fill it in. Get it with the pressure for you guys. Here to get it well inked. Okay, I think we're about ready to go.
We printed
What's the next?
How many? 120.
Don't interrupt me, please. Okay, now I forgot where I was at.
You're asking us the next
I'm
step.
inking the type. Okay. What's the next thing he has to have to print on?
Paper.
Well, something to print on. He printed about 180 copies of that first Bible, 40 of them on animal skin, and the rest of them he was able to print on paper. Paper had just been invented in China, and had come to Europe through Italy. Now the paper was being made for the scribes, and so it was hard and slick, didn't work very well with Gutenberg's oil-based ink. So he had to soften the paper by dampening it. Now I knew that if he just laid a sheet on like this and rolled it into there, he couldn't make, and roll it into, he's got to figure out how to print on the other side and line it up exactly. And so here's the answer to that problem, the tympan and the frisket. We'll open it up here. This is called the tympan. It's just leather over a frame that provides a place for us to put our paper on. These little points called duckbills position it up and down. And then a mark left and right here. Now watch this. These pins poke through the paper. And when he prints on the other side, he puts the paper back on through those same holes. And that gives him perfect alignment between the front and the back. It's still basically the same system that's used on printing presses even today, pin register. Now the frisket comes down to hold the paper against the tympan. It's cut out there where we're going to print. It also allows us to lift that paper back up off that sticky type without smearing it or tearing it because it's damp. So we're ready to fold the bed of the press under the platen. The next thing that happens is pull the handle, which turns the screw and lowers the platen and presses the paper against the inky type. The person that did this was called a very exotic name, the puller. So we're going to have some of you guys and gals be pullers. We're going to make 2 impressions. So let's have, why don't you come and do our first impression. 2 hands up there and pull it towards you. As
Hard as you can.
Make a good impression.
Don't break it. When President Monson was here, he pulled that thing, and I said, "Don't break it." About brought the house down. He really pulled it though. He moved the press a little bit.
Okay, now notice the size of the platen is really quite small. Because the bigger the platen is, the more power it takes to get sufficient impression. So I just printed the 1 page, so we've got to roll it out and get the other page. Now we'd like to have some of the gals do it. How about
Go for it, Sabrina. I'll film for you.
Yeah, take a picture. We're gonna pause while you do it. Pull it as hard as you can.
okay?
Hard.
Come on,
Don't
gotta make a good impression.
That's what Gutenberg did.
Well, that sounds pretty good.
It's hard.
Did it?
Yeah, how'd you like to do that all day long?
You'd have some arm muscles.
All right, now we're going to roll it out. Now listen quietly, and you can hear the Frisket lift that paper
This is called
off that sticky top.
press kiss.
Oh boy.
You did pretty good.
Wow.
You did a pretty good inking job and a pretty good pulling job.
Hope you have watched the video and you got an idea about the Gutenberg's printing press. And the next is dry point engraving and handwritten form of printing was invented in the year 1465, another milestone in the history of printing. And by the 16th century, the printing press had been in existence for around 50 years. It has spread throughout Europe and more than 10 million copies of nearly 3,500 works had already been printed. And during the first decade of 16th century, Aldous Manutius came up with a printer that gave smaller, more portable books. He is also the first to use italic type. And in 1507, Lucas invented another woodcut kind of a thing, a technique in which drawings are reproduced using 2 or more blocks printed in different colors. And it is Jacob Christoph, a German painter and engraver, founded the basic form of CMYK printing that you can see in most of our printing, like what we have today, our printing machine. You can see that they follow this color scheme, CMYK, that is cyan, magenta, yellow and black, that is key black. Okay, and he used this mesotint method to engrave 3 metal plates for printing. Here each plate is inked with a different color using red, yellow and blue. Later on he adds the 4th plate, that is black lines. An American inventor, Richard March Howe, builds the first lithographic rotary printing press. So that is another important milestone. Okay, here a press in which the type is placed on a revolving cylinder instead of a flatbed. Then this speeds up the printing process dramatically. Next is another important invention. Okay, that was in the 19th century. The second Gutenberg, Otmar, invented linotype machine. The invention of linotype composing machine is a major step forward in the process of printing. With this typesetter, an operator can enter text using a 90 character contained keyboard. The machine outputs the text as slugs having lines of metal type. So I'm just going to show you another video that is like, how a linotype press works. Okay, so this will give you an idea about the linotype press, because these are all major inventions, like, from the Gutenberg's printing machine to the next thing is linotype printing machine. Okay, so in between there were many printing machines and all, but these two are considered as pretty important in the history of printing history of printing. So watch this video, and if you want to watch the entire video, I have just given this YouTube link below. Okay,
awesome machine.
Oh,
There we go.
all right, cool.
What was really revolutionary about this was that mechanical typesetting tools up till now had attempted to sort the handset type into lines to print from. This took brass mats and assembled them, then cast new type. Yeah, 5 degrees about 2 seconds ago. Which solved 2 problems. It kept the type fresh, so you were always printing from brand new type, and you didn't have to have 400 E's, you only had to have about 15 or 20 mats that were E's. Each magazine holds one typeface, one size. So this is a condensed 6-point Gothic of some sort. Whenever you want to change typefaces, you have to pull this whole unit off. This holds 91 channels of math, lowercase letters, special characters, and uppercase. Then type on the keyboard down here. The mats are assembled here. And then they're cast in this part of the machine here in front of the mold wheel. In the back is the pot, which has molten lead. After the line is cast, it's ejected and trimmed. The assembly arm comes down and picks up all the mats and sorts them back into their correct channel.
Quite complicated.
It is quite complicated. And it all happens in about
A couple of seconds.
minute, second and a half.
Right.
hope you got an idea about the linotype composing machine. Next is CTP. The 21st century has more to talk about digital revolution rather than print technology, except some few innovations like Ctp printing with plates and CMYK coloring by the help of digital technology. Okay, so computer to plate is an amazing, it's basically an amazing technology. It's an imaging technology. It's amazing imaging technology used in modern printing process. In this technology, an image created in a desktop publishing application is output directly to a printing plate. So that is CTP. Okay. Later, technology has made several changes in printing technology. Here is a small timeline of the further technological progress of print. You can see that 1906 you can see 1906 you can see photostat and rectigraph, then xerography, inkjet printing, dot matrix printing, laser printing, thermal printing, 3D printing, digital printing. So you are familiar with all these terminologies, so I don't have to explain it to you, right? Yes. So next is letterpress, another important invention. Okay, and letterpress printing is a technique of relief printing using a printing history. Sorry. Letterpress printing is a technique of relief printing using a printing press, a process by which many copies are produced by repeated direct impression of an inked raised surface against sheets or a continuous roll of paper. It was found in the 15th century. It has been revival of success in recent years in the fine art, craft, and design worlds, and is often used to create wedding invitations and posters. However, it remains a very flexible and reliable printing method that can be used for almost anything. Next is offset printing, that is very common now. Yes, so offset printing is a commonly used printing technique in which the inked image is transferred from a plate to a rubber blanket, then to the printing surface. Okay, so that is what we use in most of our printing purpose these days, offset printing. Okay. Desktop publishing. Okay, another important thing, like another important milestone. Okay, desktop publishing is a creation of documents using page layout software on a personal computer. It was first used almost exclusively for print publications, but now it also assists in the creation of various forms of online content. Okay, so there are n number of desktop publishing softwares available. Some of them are Adobe InDesign, Quark Express, Scribus, Adobe PageMaker. You are familiar with Adobe PageMaker because last year you had a session, on Adobe PageMaker, right? Yes. And next is inkjet printing. So you would have seen this type of printing, like you have it in your home, in your college, and other offices and all. The process involves a printer which communicates digitally with a computer of some sort and physically sprays the ink onto the paper. Okay. So, and I told you, like this follows something called a CMYK pattern. And the printing press has influenced psychology in several major ways. Before printing press, people were apt to believe that the text they were reading was true because only the most noteworthy information was recorded. Very true, right? People used to believe things. People used to believe, a print. Now the scenario has changed. Like, you can print, you have printers at home, you can print it. Yes, right? Yes. And that is all about the brief history of printing and its contribution to the world. Hope you have enjoyed this session. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the live class and you can discuss it in the discussion forum. Thank you so much.